So hello everybody, welcome to a new video today. As always, I'm back to a little top 10 list, but this month I'm not doing the best of my country for this month, my focus. And the reason for that is because I did half of Europe this month, and I thought, do I want to do my top 10 Europe without finishing Europe? And the answer was no. So then I was like, what else could I do? Because I do enjoy doing these monthly little movie videos. And then I thought, why don't I do my top 10 movies I dislike? Now, it was a bit of a grey area here because the title is probably going to be something like, you know, great movies I hate, or or movies I think are overrated. Now that's not quite true. I don't like these movies, but I don't necessarily think they're bad. Okay, I just want to clear that up. A lot of these movies, some of these I'll probably give a good 3 stars to. You know what I mean? I can see why the people like them. I just don't like them myself. I just want to make that clear. I'm not trying to annoy anyone. I'm not saying these are awful, 1 out of 10 movies. Not at all. Not at all. It's just I personally don't think they're as good as people say they are. And some of them I just don't like at all, but at no point do I think these are bad. I just wanted to clear that up. I thought that's something good to say. I'm just here to say my opinion. I respect it if you disagree. That being said, I have seen lots of videos like this. Mark Carpenter did one, I think. There's a couple of YouTubers I've seen do it. And I do like it. It's fun. Even if you disagree with them, it's fun just to hear a different opinion, just to see why and see their reasoning. So with that being said, without further ado, we're going to jump into top 10. Yeah. So in 10 is Ghostbusters. Now I've got to say, I do feel bad for putting Ghostbusters on here because it's not a movie I think, again, I don't think this is bad at all. I actually kind of like the first one, but overall as a franchise, and even the first one in a way, I don't think they're brilliant, I think they're fine. The first one is a solid movie, it is what it is, it's silly. But it's just like it's just nothing for me. I think at its core, the best way for me to explain it is that there's like the Terminators, the Aliens, Predator, Gremlins, Die Hard, all of those are up here, and then Ghostbusters like down here. That's the reason it's on this list. It's because when it gets talked about Ghostbusters, it's up here with the rest. And for me, it's like the worst franchise. Even though I have a soft spot and I don't hate it, it is a movie I don't think is as good as people say. And when a lot of people talk about nostalgia for the, Star Wars, blah, 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 I think Star Wars, I think Star Trek, a lot of them you can actually watch without nostalgia and actually like it. Ghostbusters, I think, is 80% nostalgia. I do. Now, in at number 9 is one which is very controversial. It's Hot Fuzz. And I know it's controversial because everyone loves Hot Fuzz way too much. I want to put it out there. I think it's fine. I think it's a good movie. Again, a 3-star movie. I don't hate it. I don't dislike watching it. But the reason I put it here is because in my opinion, it is the worst of the trilogy. If you want an even more controversial opinion, I actually think World's End is probably my favourite of the trilogy. Although I do appreciate Shaun of the Dead is probably the best one, like, as a filmmaking product, because Shaun of the Dead is amazing. I just think Hot Fuzz is fine. There's some funny moments, but I just don't see how people think it's the best one. I really don't agree. And I've seen it a couple times as well, by the way. And again, it's fine. I enjoyed it. I don't dislike it. But I just think the other two are so much better. And everyone kind of hates on World's End because, the ending is a bit silly. But for me, the ending is what stops it getting an even higher rating. I have to say as well, I think in terms of characters, Nick Frost and Sean Pegg both play a much more interesting character in The World's End. If I'm really being honest, I really think so. For example, Nick Frost in the first two plays more of like a cheerful friend. When in the last one, he's a bit more angry. He has a bit of history, a bit of hate towards Simon Pegg. Did I say Sean Pegg a minute ago? I might have done. Simon Pegg, sorry. And yeah, I just think he has a bit more of a complexity to him. Even, is it Andy King? In the third one, it's just, there's more to him, I think. He's a bit more annoying, but that's part of, I think, in terms of acting, there's more to do. And I think that's why I like it. I think the story on its own is great. But in terms of Hot Fuzz, it's decent. I just think it's a clear last place out of the 3. So that's why it's on this list. In 8th is Spirited Away, but a little slash Studio Ghibli. Just a slash Studio Ghibli. Now, definite 3 stars. Definite great movie. I enjoyed it, animated really well. The score is amazing, the music on it is great, but is Spirited Away as good as people say it is? I don't think so. Side point, I also think Studio Ghibli is just not as good as people say. The one Studio Ghibli movie I adore is one called Grave of the Fireflies. And it annoys me because no one knows about that one, or at least a lot of people don't know about it. But Grave of the Fireflies, I think, is like an actually really, really good movie. Very sad movie. I probably wouldn't watch it again because it's so sad. But that, to me, is like the best Studio Ghibli movie. Spirited Away, I get it. When I first watched it, I loved it. Every time I watch it since, though, I'm like, okay. I like it less and less, if that makes sense. I love the character designs. Like, I do like it. It's just, I just think it's not as good as people say it is. I really don't. Again, I do really love it, and maybe one day I'm going to regret putting this on the list. But right now, I just feel like it's not as good as people say it is. It's not, you know, the best Studio Ghibli movie. And Studio Ghibli movies in general, besides 2 or 3, are very mid, very basic. You know what I mean? For example, the movie Your Name, which isn't a Studio Ghibli movie, I think is better than most Studio Ghibli movies. That's my point. But everyone acts like Studio Ghibli is like always this top tier movie. I think it's always just kind of in the middle, is what I think. Similar vibe though, going on to what I think is probably my least favourite Tarantino is Reservoir Dogs. Which I know a lot of people are going to hate me for because a lot of people love this movie. And some people say it's the best Tarantino movie. But I just think I was disappointed with it. What I will say is I've seen this 2 times. The first time I watched it, I was like, oh man, it's not quite what I wanted. The second time I watched it, I was so confident I was going to like it more. And I just didn't. And again, I gave it a 3. I just want to make that clear. I didn't hate it again. I feel like I need to say that every time because otherwise people are going to think I've said it's awful. But I just thought I was very underwhelmed by it. And I like the fact it didn't show the heist. And I like a lot about it. It didn't slip the landing for me. Again, though, I can appreciate I'm in the wrong. I don't think this is an awful movie, even like it just in general. And when people say they think it's the best Tarantino, I get it. I can see why. I just don't agree. In 6th, we have A Nightmare Before Christmas. Now, I'm just going to brace myself here because I know a lot of people are already getting their bows ready. They're already annoyed with me. Yeah. Exactly. That's what I was going to say. Yeah. And I can see why I can see why people would love this movie. I just think it's so okay. Same with Coraline, same with like, you know, Paranorman, all of those, Corpse Bride. I just don't care about them. I've watched them, Nightmare Before Christmas I watch every year. So clearly I don't hate it. But I just think it's a fine movie, you know. It's nothing compared to the great Pixar movies. It's nothing compared to Grave of the Fireflies or Claws. And I just think as an animated movie, it's fine. The style of it looks great. And, you know, the songs are catchy. But it's just, I just don't think it's this brilliant movie people say it is, you know. I wouldn't put it in my top 100 movies. I wouldn't put it in my top 100 animated movies. I mean, I would have to think of 100 animated movies, but it definitely wouldn't be in my top list of animated movies. And yeah, I just think it's fine. So for number 5, we're going for a very different approach, and we're going for any Eddie Murphy movie that's not Shrek. Now, as a person, I love Eddie Murphy. I love him. Right, his comedy is great. He's a funny person, and even in the movies I don't like of his, which is all the movies, there's moments that are funny. It's not that I don't find him funny. I just don't find his movies funny. And my wife loves him. My uncle loves him. My boss, you know, a lot of people love him and his movies. I can appreciate that. I just don't get it. Like, let me get up his movies a minute. So, Coming to America, didn't care for it. Did not find that funny. Beverly Hills Cop is probably my favourite of his movies. Norbit, Night Professor, Like, I just don't find it funny. Trading Places is a big one as well. I just don't enjoy them. And again, as a person, he's great. I think he's hilarious. I just don't think his movies are anything above a 3. And that's being generous on some. Some of them are awful. And like, I feel bad because, like I said, I love him as a person. But his movies, I think, are not up to standard. Talking of someone who doesn't have good movies, we're going to John Carpenter, which is my number 4. Just a broad John Carpenter. Now, I want to put a big disclaimer straight away. The Thing is good. I love The Thing. It's probably my top 30 movies. I wouldn't hesitate to say it's probably one of my favorite horror movies. And I just, when I'm talking about John Carpenter, I'm not talking about The Thing. And I'm also not talking about Halloween 1, which isn't as good as I think people say it is, but it's still decent. I do like the Halloween 1. However, They Live, I thought is okay. The Fog, I hated. I actually disliked The Fog. Escape to New York really let me down. Big Trouble in Little China is fun, but it's still midway, I think. You know, Precinct 13 was also pretty poor. I just really don't like any of them. And look, if they're your kind of movies, I get it. I completely get it. I get why you'd like them. I get why you'd see quality there. But for me, it's so much so now, but the ones I haven't seen of his, I don't even care about trying out. Like Christine, I've heard is good. I don't care. Because he's had too many fails for me. Too many fails. I just didn't like it. But yeah, so that, John Carpenter is number 4 on my list for good reason. Number 3, we have No Country for Old Men. Now, this one is tough because I know this one's a good movie. But I personally would give this like a 5 out of 10. Like, I give it a 2.5 stars. I do not like this movie, right? I've watched it twice. The first time, similar to Reservoir Dogs, actually, I was like, that's not what I was thinking. But when I watched it the second time, I was like, I'm going to like this. I sat down and I was like, I'm going to love this movie. You know, I was expecting something like There Will Be Blood, you know, that kind of quality. And I was very disappointed. I can see why people like it. Again, I'm not saying I think it's an awful movie outright. But for me, it is. I think the performance of the main guy, brilliant, right? And there's a couple moments where it kind of does stun you, like the cattle gun, that kind of stuff. However, I think a majority of the movie is slow. I think I don't care about it. I don't care if it looks good, if I don't care about what's happening, and I just didn't care. You know, I can't even explain how much I didn't like this movie, but there was like almost nothing redeemable about it besides the main performance. Again, it does look good and it's shot well, but everything else about it I did not enjoy. And I think my personal opinion is that people remember the 1 or 2 really big moments and then just latch on to that. I hate the fact that the guy dies off camera. I hate so much about it, and there's so much I dislike, and I just really don't like this movie. And it could have been number 1, but number 1's is a big one. But it's one of my most, you know, it's one of my highest. What's a movie you don't like? That kind of one. Yeah, I just don't get it. I just don't get it at all. In number 2, though, we have Orson Welles movies, and I do not like Orson Welles, specifically with Citizen Kane. And a lot of people, you know, say it's slow or this and that. It's hard to watch. I didn't even think it was hard to watch. I just didn't connect with the character or what was happening. But I think there's something about Orson Welles' movies, because I've seen Magnificent Ambersons, I've seen Touch of Evil, I've seen A Lady from Shanghai, which is my favourite one. That one was actually okay. But all of the ones I've watched of his is very, I think it's just his storytelling method, which I don't hate as a neutral thing, right? I don't look at it and go, this is awful. But when I'm watching it, I just really struggle to get really invested. You know what I mean? I'm kind of like, oh, how long's left of this? I'm really not into it. And I can appreciate, like, say if I read through the Wikipedia plot, I could probably appreciate, like, oh, okay, the story is good. I'm not doubting that. And the acting's probably good. I also kind of hate the fact that he does put himself in every movie, though. I probably would do it if I was a director and I could act. I would probably cast myself. But when you're watching it, it's like, come on, mate. Like, stop doing it. It's annoying. It's annoying. So, yeah, for me, Orson Welles, I don't like his movies. And Citizen Kane, I really want to like it more. But I just don't like it. I've seen it like 3 or 4 times. No, 2 or 3 times now. And it's just not for me. And that's okay. But that means I can put it on this list. And it's number 2. So, number 1, the big one. I would almost be so sure and saying no one is going to guess this. Everyone I've met, besides one person called Sarah, shout out to Sarah because she gets this. Every other person who's seen this movie, loves it. It's like a 5 out of 5. I work with someone who says they see this as the perfect movie, right? I hate this movie. I hate it. And it's called Mad Max Fury Road, right? That is right. I do not like Mad Max Fury Road. I would give it like a 2.5. And that 2.5 is purely visuals. Because whenever I talk to someone about this, they always go, Oh, but it looks gorgeous. Yeah, it does. I don't care. I don't care if it looks gorgeous if everything else I don't like. Do you know what I mean? Now, and I'm not saying this in a patronising way. I also am someone who really likes dialogue and interaction and character development. I'm not saying that Mad Max Fury Road didn't have that, but definitely wasn't a focus, right? The focus was action, cinematography. I get it. Especially how practical it looks. You could pause any moment of the movie and it'd be a good poster, you know? It looks great. If I was rating movies on how good they look, this will probably be in my top 10. Do you know what I mean? It looks beautiful. But I do not like anything. I hate Tom Hardy in it. I think he's awful. Not his performance, I just don't like his character. I don't like the fact that there's so little dialogue. And like, just as a comparison, I love Dune 2, right? Which is, it's not too different in the fact that, you know, it really plays into the visuals and all this. But the story, I think, is so great in Dune 2. And in Mad Max, it just isn't there. And the thing is, I wish I could know the details on this. Like, you know, I hate this bit, I hate this bit. I just hate it as an overall. I've never been big into actions. Especially when it's like, you know, Fast and Furious-y, where it's just like stuff happening for the sake of stuff happening. John Wick, for example, I love because it is choreographed so well. I know some people are going to be laughing at that because they're going to go, "Ooh, Mad Max is choreographed even better." Maybe so, but I just think it's just such the location and the setting of the world. I can't get into it. I've never liked movies that are like dystopian and kind of all kind of deserty, because it's just like, how is this meant to be a positive win? You know, there's no win in here. It's just you're in a wasteland, and I hate that kind of setting in general. So that probably put me against the movie as well. But yeah, I really don't like Mad Max Fury Road, and I don't think it's an awful movie. But the fact some people give it a 5 stars, I'm like, 5 stars? I don't know. I just feel like it's the visuals, and you just ignore everything else. And sure, I've watched it twice. And I'm able to watch it, and at no point would I ever think about like turning it off. But it's definitely not a 5 star. It's definitely, I would give it a 2.5 in generosity for how good the visuals are. But everything else, I do not like it. I really don't. I wish I could give more details and kind of try to offer explanations, but I really can't. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. It's my one movie that I'm just like, I do not like this movie. So there you go. That has been my list. I hope you've enjoyed it. The video, I don't know how it's going to turn out because this little person has been shouting the whole time. So there may be a couple shouts in between my talking. And my talk is probably going to be cut up loads because I've had to not speak so fluently. So if I've not gone into much detail, I do apologise because I've been kind of thrown off my flow a little bit by this little girl over here. But I hope you've enjoyed my list. So just go through them. 10 Ghostbusters, Hot Fuzz, Spirited Away / Studio Ghibli, Reservoir Dogs, Nightmare Before Christmas, Eddie Murphy movies, John Carpenter films, No Country for Old Men, Citizen Kane / Orson Welles, and number 1, the worst movie I've ever seen, Mad Max Fury Road. Thank you for watching, everyone. I've been James. Next month, my focus for movies is Indian movies, which I'm very excited for. So if you have any suggestions, leave them now, because in May I'm going to be watching loads of Indian movies. Also a couple Russian movies, and also 1960s movies. So if you have any suggestions, let me know. Until then, I've been James. I'll see you next time. Bye.